Robot of Sherwood.
You're very, very nicely done with the box, sir.
Oh boy. I kind of laid into this one in the without spoilers version. I don't want you to think that I hate the episode or Mark Gatiss. You know, it's. I just don't think that his writing for this episode, or honestly in general, matches the tone of Doctor Who. And maybe the idea there is specifically to kind of pull you out of what you expect. Maybe the idea is that a lot of these episodes are meant to sort of be not uplifting, but, you know, they might give you something more to look for in Doctor Who. But the writing is just strange. There's so much strangeness in the writing. It's not all bad. There's some good stuff. For example, the beginning, the spoon fight. I mentioned, you know, it was a reference to another Robin Hood piece of work. Speaking, which for what it's worth, this feels like it's a combination of the weirdest parts of Robin Hood. Like, I heard the comment from a few of my friends that they thought that it felt more like the Disney animated version, you know, than any other iteration of Robin Hood. Honestly, to me, it felt almost more like The Princess Bride than Robin Hood. It's not a bad thing. The Princess Bride is fantastic, and the Disney animated version of Robin Hood was fine too. It's strange to see the Doctor in that kind of scenario, especially when half of this episode he seems to have been written as a secondary antagonist.
If you had not betrayed me, I would have been triumphant.
You would have been a little puff of smoke and ashes. Ah! You'd have been floating around in tiny little laughing bits in people's goblets.
Balderdash.
Ha! Oh, right, here we go. It's laughing time.
He's a giant, colossal dickhead to Robin Hood for the entire episode. Literally in the final fight with him, where the Doctor is facing off against the sheriff, and, you know, he's got him cornered, and he's talking about, like, well, yep, I guess you're going to blow us all up now, blah, 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 he's a robot too. And even then, he still refuses to believe that Robin Hood's real at all. Like, not even, oh, he's been, you know, brainwashed or something. He's just like, oh, he's a robot, because it's the easiest explanation. And even still, he says, you know, Robin Hood, he's a legend. And Robin Hood, you know, makes a joke about, oh, you're too kind. But, like, he's such an asshole, and he's so coarse about it. It's very strange. It's going to take some getting used to if the Doctor's going to be this, you know, rough-edged, I guess, the whole time, and this cynical, and this... He's not a downer, he's just very realistic, which is weird for the Doctor, because usually he's all about, you know, strangeness and alien worlds and everything. And... You know, we get a teeny tiny taste of that right at the beginning, where he's asking where Clara wants to go. She says go see Robin Hood, and he suggests a couple other things that sound pretty cool.
Just passing the time. Hey, what about Mars?
What?
The Ice Warrior hives.
You said it was my choice.
Or the tumescent arrows of the half-light. Those girls can hold their drink.
Doctor?
And fracture 15 different levels of reality simultaneously. I think I've got a Polaroid somewhere.
Doctor!
And, you know, give you that little glimmer of, like, the 10th Doctor in particular got really into descriptions of alien worlds and all of that. And I want to see that. You know, so far we've had 3 episodes, one of which took place in Victorian London, another of which took place almost entirely inside of a Dalek, and the third, you know, took place in, what was it, 12th century England. I'm not a big Robin Hood fan in general, so I couldn't pretend to. I guess Nottingham, right? So we've got 2, you know, middle-age Earth stories, and one that takes place inside of a character. So we've yet to see an alien world, which has me worried, I guess. Everything's been a little more human, which is part of the point. 12 is definitely a more human Doctor. He's definitely more human than 11. He's probably on par with 9 in the way that he acts very human, but has no problem with putting down humankind either. And in some ways, I'd say he's actually a little bit more down-to-earth and human than 10 was, just because he's a bit more reserved. But, you know, it's characterization that's going to take some getting used to. The writing. Sorry, I'm off like a million miles away on another tangent. The writing is not great. There's some really cool parts in it. For example, the archery tournament at the beginning, which my girlfriend Sarah watched it, and she commented that it actually fit really well with a lot of different Robin Hood, stories. Where when they get to the archery tournament, they pretty much gloss over the tournament and just go, "Oh yeah, by the way, it's this mystery guy Robin Hood and the sheriff are the only two people left. Like that's it." There are adaptations that would go a bit more into the tournament and how it goes, but when you're reading Robin Hood, you want to get to the good parts. Oh, it's a tournament. Let's jump right to the end of the tournament because that's what's more interesting. And they do it here too. And that's really clever and smart and well adapted from the old legends. And then you have the actual archery, so we hear the phrase, split the arrow, right? That Robin Hood splits the arrow when he fires his bow, shoots his bow. I don't know the term for it. I'm not big on archery. This is really not an episode catered to me at all. Yikes. But so most of the time they talk about splitting an arrow, it just like banana peels open and the arrow's inside, right? It was such an obvious, there's no way this could happen sort of thing that the Mythbusters actually did. One of their myths was, splitting an arrow. Is it even possible to split an arrow? I want to say they were able to damage an arrow. It's been a while since I've seen it. I think they were able to damage an arrow by shooting it, but the problem is that when an arrow flies, it doesn't fly, straight. It wobbles as it goes, and that's actually part of how it gets through the air so well. It kind of swims its way through. There's actually racing games that do a similar thing where by swerving just a little bit, you can actually go a lot faster than you normally could. It's kind of neat how that all fits together. But instead of taking it that literally, oh, he split the arrow, what they did instead was that first arrow goes in and it just takes a little piece off the side, which seems, more realistic, which is good. Wow, I'm fucking drunk as shit. It's more realistic, which is good, but also it does it in a way where it still looks really goddamn impressive. All right, because not only did he, nick the arrow, but his arrow is stuck right in there. It's not like it did that and then bounced off and, whatever. It's right in there. And then, the first split, that one, it makes perfect sense. It works perfectly. That's amazing. And then you get the doctor comes in and at first you're just kind of like, oh, okay, so the doctor's also really good. We're starting to get a little bit weirder now. And then it just goes into like cartoon land out of nowhere, which honestly I thought was kind of fucking funny. I enjoyed it for reasons that I don't think I necessarily should. I don't know. It was funny though, watching the three of them just like fling, 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 more arrows, and by the end you've got I think 6 or 7 arrows, all just like in this weird clump right in the center of the board, and the doctor just. I thought it didn't do wood. Awkward. So a lot of the plot was pretty straightforward, which is kind of why I had a problem with it. It was a little boring. You get the twist, halfway through that, oh, the Black Knights that were robots are really robots. What? So the Doctor uses this opportunity, what is clearly a futuristic race. I want to say he said like 19th century or 29th century or something. But he looks through and he finds a data bank of information on Robin Hood. Interesting side note, the very last shot, like really up close of Robin Hood that you see, might look a little familiar because that's Patrick Troughton who played the second Doctor. That's really cool. I like when they do references like that. It's kind of like when they had Bill Bixby appearing on screen during The Incredible Hulk. He was another guy who played the Hulk, so it's a nice little... It's neat how they can do that. But so they do that, and the twist is weird, and the Doctor thinks that Robin Hood's a robot too, and he claims he isn't. And once again, the Doctor is really, really wrong about what he has assumed is going on, which is interesting too, because we're very used to the Doctor knowing what's happening. He gets it. Here's what it is, and everyone else is stupid for not catching up. So now the Doctor is sort of he's been wrong twice in the last 3 episodes in pretty big ways. And you can even argue that Into the Dalek was really wrong because he missed the easiest opportunity for solving the problem. So now the entire season so far, the Doctor has completely missed the biggest thing to happen in the episode that would allow him to solve everything and save the day. So he's 0 for 3 right now. That's not good. Not that I want the Doctor to be Sherlock Holmes and know every last ounce of what's going on and give us the answer. He should probably be able to, get the occasional one right.
Robin Hood is not one of mine.
Of course he is. He's a robot, created by your mechanical mates.
Why would they do that?
To pacify the locals. Give them false hope he's the opiate of the masses.
Why would we create an enemy to fight us? What sense would that make? That'd be a terrible idea.
Yes. Yes, it would. Yes, that'd be a rubbish idea. Why would you do that?
So what's interesting is this episode actually had a deleted scene. I'm not entirely sure if the work print was leaked or if the BBC actually let it out to basically say, hey, look, there was this other thing and we let it go. But there was a twist right at the end of the episode where it was revealed that the Sheriff of Nottingham was also a robot. Not also a robot. He was turned into a cyborg because the ship that crashed had actually crashed onto him, and the robots built him a new body to survive in. There are little bits and pieces of that throughout the episode. He keeps talking about being superior right after the reveal would have happened. And at the end, you can see him kind of reaching out of the vat of gold, which, honestly, watching the episode, I just assumed that, he fell into the molten gold and just like the last thing he did before it solidified in the cold air was, stick his hands up. Honestly, I'm glad it was out because it made no sense. For a couple of reasons. If a castle-sized ship crashes on a human being, they die. But also because him being a robot doesn't impact the story in any way whatsoever. At all. Nothing. It doesn't change anything that we learned before. It doesn't change anything after because he immediately dies. So I'm glad that it was cut. The reason it was cut was, if you're not familiar with the global political scene, there were 2 American news reporters who were beheaded. It's pretty gross. They decided to cut the scene because the revelation of the sheriff being a cyborg was because Robin Hood actually beheads him, and the head goes rolling away, and he keeps talking and puts it back on, and they do their thing. But yeah, so good reason to cut it, along with the fact that it was a stupid thing, a stupid idea altogether. So I mean, there's that. There's also the ending. The ending is so stupid. The ending is just unbelievably stupid. So they've been building these giant molten golden, circuit board things that they've been using to fuel their ship. So at the end, they decide to lift off with about 80%, I think, fuel, somewhere in that range. And the Doctor says, oh God, they don't have enough fuel. They'll never get outside of the orbit and they'll explode. Good. They were the bad guys, and the Doctor hasn't really shied away from letting, people be hoisted by their own petard before, so I'm not really seeing the problem here. The alternative is, if they did reach orbit, then they would get out of the planet's orbit and, whatever, they're free, right? So that'd be bad. So the Doctor decides as they're lifting up that, oh God, I need to give them enough gold in order to make it out of orbit. So his idea is the golden arrow from earlier in the episode. Golden arrow, they can hold in their hands, is 20%, he thinks, of what they need to get out of Earth's orbit. Okay. No, but okay. And then they decide, wait, all right, we're going to Hawkeye this shit, and we're going to fire it into their ship. Okay, weird, but, I'll run with it. The Avengers gave me a lot weirder shit to think about archery, so they decide, like, oh, I'll fire it. No, I'll fire it. No, I'll fire it. And then, Robin Hood, surely it'll be better if the 3 of us work together. friendship, together. Like, it's all right, dude. Come on, let's just do this. There were a couple of complaints that I heard about how they dealt with the actual firing of the arrow, because it ultimately has the Doctor and Clara kind of holding the bow, and Robin Hood leans back and uses his feet to prop it and pull back, which, you know, looks goofy, and you look at it and you go, "There's no way that can't be a thing." But honestly, that's basically how a ballista works, isn't it? So I don't really have a problem with it. It's you know, unorthodox, but it does the job. All you need is the tension to fire the arrow, right? So they fire the arrow, and it doesn't go into anything. It just pokes the side of the castle ship, and then the sensors in the ship say, "Oh, we've got enough energy." So they make it into space, and they just they're just gone. It's really quick, and then they make it into space and explode. What the fuck? What is that? It's like 6 minutes of just me sitting there and wondering, what the fuck is any of this? I don't understand what is happening. They blow up, and that's the end. They have and they reunite Robin Hood and Maid Marian, and that's the episode. That's it. I don't know. Honestly, I was really disappointed by another big thing, and that's the fact that, oh god, we've got these silver humanoid robots, and there's gold everywhere. That sounds an awful lot like Cybermen. Not that I necessarily wanted them to have Cybermen, but they were really like lobbing that one up for the Cybermen to knock it out of the park, and they went with this other kind of robot that we know nothing about now, because they're all blown up and they had no identity and they had nothing going for them, and the only identifying characteristic is the fact that the Sheriff of Nottingham was somehow their ringleader, even though the fact that he was, you know, a human that became a cyborg had nothing really to do with it. Bad guys. It's just, honestly, out of the 7 Mark Gatiss stories so far, it might be the worst written. I know that I'm just laying into him right now, but it's baffling. I'm willing to give episodes the benefit of the doubt when they do weird shit. Like Into the Dalek, the Carl Sagan moment was really fucking weird, but it kind of fit in a Doctor Who spacey sort of way, so I let it go. This one has just repeated just moment after moment after moment of just weird, out of place stuff. Oh, Jesus, and there's the reflecting plates. When they bounce back all the purple lasers, and they do this one at the end that looks like a fucking laser light show during Hanukkah. And what is it? Is the idea that they wanted to have a really, you know, lighter, softer, more adventure-y, but not as you know, trudging through the, you know, like, is the idea that they just wanted to have a silly episode? Because if they did, then God bless, that's fine, but like, there are certain things that you still need to do to make it work as a Doctor Who episode, and this one just doesn't do it, you know? Honestly, I hate ratings systems, and I was kind of originally planning on never doing any actual ratings, despite the fact that I call this fucking thing R-rated. But screw it, I'll give it a rating. This was like a C, maybe a C minus. Like, it's passable, but barely. It's just, oh man, Mark, you gotta watch some movies and shows, man, and take some notes, because there's so much wrong with this episode that it just hurts a lot. You know, and it sucks because the acting was phenomenal. The actors did a fucking great job. It's the script that was terrible. And we're not going to see any of those characters again. None of them. Robin Hood is a one-off thing. There's no reason to see him again. We might get, you know, a Pandora Opens style thing where, you know, we get a brief glimpse of him later as part of a bigger plot, but it's going to be like a minute or two and that's it. Same thing as A Good Man Goes to War, really. And Sheriff is dead. The robots exploded. None of it mattered. Almost at all. Except to let the Doctor know, hey, Clara still actually is fond of you, and maybe you're not such a bad guy after all. Oh, man. Alternate title for this episode. My take on it is Mark Gatiss, what are you doing? That's all I got to say. Yeah, that's all I got. I got nothing else to say, and certainly nothing that good to say about it. And it sucks because I love Doctor Who, and I hate hating on the episodes, but that's all I can do for this one. Yeah, next time is going to be Listen. Let's hope that one's a lot better. Later.